Today I'm going to review a Canadian Tire Yardworks 9-ton log splitter. Just picked it up this weekend. It went on sale and I couldn't resist anymore. It's actually been years that I wanted one, but I always thought, I was being a wimp. I could just do it by hand, just chop all the wood with an axe. I don't know. I'm getting older. I thought, now's the time to spoil myself a little bit and make it easier to do large volumes of wood. Especially we now have a wood stove, and I think this is going to help out a lot. At all the options, there's a 3-ton, 4-ton, 5-ton, 6-ton, who knows what else, but I wanted the strongest one available, and so I went with the 9-ton. That way I'd have no regrets and I'd be able to really chop up the difficult stuff. So here we go. Let's have a look at the box it came into and do a full unboxing. Okay, so here it is. As you can see, it's a pretty big box. It's a beast, let me tell you. It's not lightweight, not easy to put into the truck and carry home or maneuver at all. It says here that the thing weighs 172 pounds. So you want 2 people to move this thing. So all the specs are right there. It can handle logs 20.5-inch long, and it says 12.5-inch round. Oh yeah. Okay, let's do this. Aha. Okay. Some manuals. A little bit of paperwork. Do not return this to the store. Okay, sure. Put that aside for now. Well, it seems to be pretty well packaged, eh? It's actually got wood in here. Alright, I'll set that aside over here for now. We've got some rubber feet. Have to be installed. Alright, put that aside. Take out the styrofoam, the mandatory styrofoam. There we go. Oh, wow. It actually looks a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. Oh, here's the wheels. Wow. Those are some legit wheels, eh? Steel hub. Nice rubber tires. Okay. Install those a little later. 1 and 2. What's the pressure on these, I wonder? Not for highway use. Surprise. Max inflation 30 psi. Alrighty. Okay, there it is. Beautiful. Oh wow, more wood. Alright. Another hunk of wood. There we go. Alright, I'm going to read this manual, find out how to do what I need to do, and we'll go from there. It seems pretty well laid out. It's got a list of all the parts, down to the bolts. Wow. Schematic. A lot of descriptions. A lot of safety issues. It describes building a table to put it on, which makes a lot of sense. From the YouTube videos I've been watching, apparently you don't want to be leaning over down to the ground with a log every time. You want to lift this thing up 2-3 feet so that it's at your height and you can just work at a comfortable height. Of course, that means lifting the logs up every time. something to experiment with next. Yeah, here you go. Assembling the wheels, assembling the rubber feet, and then something about checking the oil. Alright, we'll get to that next. First, the wheels. Alrighty. This looks fairly straightforward. I guess you'll need to have a wrench handy. Loosen that off. And it says, install the wheels with a valve stem facing outward. Valve stem outward. Remove the wheel nut and washer from the axle. So I'm leaving one washer on. Installing the wheel. Putting one more washer back. And the nut. And then it says, tighten the wheel nut. Alright, there we go. It's one of those locking nuts, so apparently that should stay put. Now I'm going to do the exact same to the other side, and I won't bother showing you that. Alright, now for the front pads, the little rubber pads that go under the front of the machine. Okay, here's something interesting. You can learn from my mistakes. The manual does say to flip the log splitter on its end so that you can access the front of the machine and check the oil. But there's something here that you want to pay attention to. So what we have here is a guard, and it's not made of very thick metal, but it is meant to guard your hand as you're operating the control. So if you flip this on its, if you rotate it on the wheels and flip it back, it's going to put a lot of weight on here, and this is going to bend. I already had it bend in towards this head here. So just a word of advice, this here is very solid, and if you can put some 2x4s on the ground that are going to butt up against that, then you won't be resting on this, and it won't bend, and everybody will be happy. So here, I'll show you what happens when I do it with the new, with the wood in place. So as you can see, it's resting on the body here and not the guard. Much better. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to check that there's the correct amount of oil in the log splitter. So what we do is we remove the combination oil drain, oil dipstick, and have a look at the oil amount. On the front of the machine, it's this bolt right here. What they don't tell you is that you need an 8mm hex key. I don't think it's, you know, an average hex key to have around. I was fortunate that I did. It's quite large, 8mm. Fits in there nicely. It also fits in a couple other bolts on the machine over here. And it's probably worthwhile checking all the bolts before operation to make sure they're all tight. Anyway, here we go. Remove that. And then we can hand spin it. Wow, it's actually a lot bigger than I expected. Woo! So that's the combination dipstick and drain plug. I'm just going to set it down and we'll check the amount of oil on here. So what the manual says is that it needs to be between two marks. There's a slight groove here, right there, and another groove right there. So somewhere in between there is where the oil needs to be. Alright, let's pop it in. Pull it out. And sure enough, it's right there, which is exactly in the middle of these two marks. So from the factory, it came with precisely the amount of oil necessary. All right, we'll take our 8mm hex key and we'll just tighten that up. All right, it's good, hand tight. All right, just reading through the manual to understand the operation of the log splitter. The next thing to note is that there is a bleed screw on the machine, and the bleed screw has to be opened 3 full turns during operation. And I guess that allows for the escape of air when the log splitter is operating. And you have to be careful with it, because I've read other people had issues where the split log hit the screw and broke it off. So what it recommends is that you turn it 3 times and then keep it in a perfectly vertical position. And I'll show you what I mean. So there is the bleed screw, and it's hard to see, that's vertical and that would be horizontal. But as you can see, if a log came past the splitter, it might just pop the end of that and break it off. It's only a piece of plastic. That is fully closed, so I'm going to open it 3 full turns. 1, 2, 3, and then keep it vertical up and down so that it's protected behind this and it's not going to catch on a piece of wood. At least I hope so. Now, in terms of operation of the machine, it's got this manual handle. It's got 2 settings, 2 speeds. The first is a faster speed with less torque. The second is a slower speed with more torque. They're saying that the first speed is for softwood and the second speed is for hardwood. There's no actual click or place where it pops in and out of those speeds. It's just kind of a variable control, and you can adjust it as you want. In conjunction with that manual control at the back of the machine, there is this safety switch, which has to be pressed in order for it to operate. Apparently, it's a 2-handed operation. One hand pushes this in, the other hand operates the manual switch at the back, and if either of them lets go, the machine stops. So both must be operated simultaneously. So I think the only thing left to do is to plug it in and give it a test run. Let's see how it works. I don't have huge logs, but I do have some 4 or 5 inch maple, which is pretty hard. It's a tough wood. It's well seasoned, it's dry, but it's quite heavy as a wood and quite tough. So let's give it a go. All right, safety in. Wow, that did a great job. Fast and a beautiful split. I'm impressed. So that's what we got from our first piece of wood. Exactly 20 inches long and 4 really nice splits in a very quick amount of time. I'm finding with my very limited experience so far is that it pays to put the wood up against the splitter at the end. So that you know where it's going to contact the wood, as opposed to putting it at the head, the blue head. So right now I'm operating this log splitter while I'm actually kneeling on the ground. Obviously I can't handle this position for very long. At some point I'm going to want to be erect, and so getting this log splitter raised 2-3 feet on a table is going to be imperative, and then I can stand up and I'll be much more comfortable. Alright, just quickly then, my initial thoughts of the 9-ton log splitter from Canadian Tire. So far so good, and I've only used it for 15 minutes. It came extremely well packaged, you know, very well protected with styrofoam and wood, and there was no damage to it when I got it. I think what I'm going to do now is take a couple wrenches, screwdriver, hex keys, and make sure everything's really tight on this log splitter, that there's no loose bolts, and that I'm not going to end up with anything falling apart in the next, the next use. So I'll double check that everything's tight, and we'll go from there. After I get a little more hands-on experience with it, I'll make a second video with a final review and perhaps some tips and tricks that I've discovered. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Bye now.